Hi, and welcome to our next video exploring weather tools. Last week, we took a look at the invention and function of a windsock. This week, we're going to look at the predecessor to thermometers, the thermoscope. Both the thermoscope and thermometers measure temperature, but the thermoscope doesn't use a scale like thermometers do, so it can't tell you in degrees what the temperature is. It just tells you if it's changing and if that change is an increase or a decrease. Galileo is credited with creating the very first thermoscope back in the 1590s, some 430 years ago. Typically, a thermoscope consists of a small container holding a liquid and a thin tube, and you can tell when the surrounding temperature changes by watching the level of the liquid in the tube. As the liquid temperature increases, the molecules that make it up gain energy and they become excited. They start moving around really fast and bouncing off of each other, spreading out and taking up a lot more space. This is called thermal expansion. Due to this expansion or increase in volume, when the temperature increases, the level of liquid in the tube will also increase. The opposite happens when the liquid cools. Those molecules lose that extra energy that they have, they start moving a lot slower, they stop bouncing off of each other so much, and they stop taking up as much space. Due to this decrease in volume, as the temperature cools, the level of liquid in the tube will decrease. This week's STEAM challenge is to make your own thermoscope at home and to record the temperature trends in your house. To make your thermoscopes at home, you'll need a few supplies. To start, you'll need either an actual pipette or an eye or medicine dropper, a funnel. If you don't have a funnel at home, you can roll up a piece of paper like an ice cream cone and that'll work too. Some modeling clay, a small bottle with a narrow opening, a straw, some food coloring, some rubbing alcohol, and a Sharpie. The first thing we're going to need to do is to fill up about 3/4 of our bottle with rubbing alcohol. Take a rubbing alcohol, and using your funnel or your paper, fill it up so it's about 3/4 of the way full. About right there. Make sure you close your rubbing alcohol up so you don't have to smell that really strong scent the whole time you're doing this. Put that aside. Next thing we have to do is to add our food coloring so we can see our liquid more easily when it's traveling up and down the tube. So we'll take our food coloring and just add a couple drops of liquid. And then I'm gonna swirl mine very carefully like this because I no longer have the lid for this bottle. But hopefully you still have the lid or the cap for yours. It's much easier to mix when you don't have to worry about spilling. Once your food coloring is nice and mixed into your rubbing alcohol, it's time to set part of that aside for later. This is where your medicine, eyedropper, or pipette comes in. We need to make sure that we set enough liquid aside to fill up half of our straw. Set that on a paper towel in case it leaks. Next, we need to make a lid for our container and something to hold the straw or the tube while it's inserted into the container. For that, we're going to use our modeling clay. So we're just going to work the clay, knead it a little bit until it gets nice and pliant and soft and you can squish it easily. And then we're going to form a circle or a disc using the clay that's big enough to fit over the top of our bottle. Now we need to make a hole for our straw. So taking our straw, we're actually just going to poke a hole straight through our disc. Going to peel this up off the table and push it straight through so it comes out the other side. As you can see, we kind of have a plug in there of some clay. We do need to get this out so the fluid can flow up and down our straw. So just kind of pinch the edge of your straw a little bit like this. And try to get as much clay out of there as possible. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean like you can see here, but it does have to be able to have fluid travel through it. Once you're good with that, we make our lid. So we take it and we put it over our container, and you want to push the straw down, not so that it's sitting on the bottom like this, but so it's kind of hovering just slightly above the bottom. And then you're going to push your clay down and make a nice tight seal around the top of your bottle and around the top of your straw. So make sure that you push the clay in around your straw as well, But again, make sure you don't collapse your straw because we want our fluid to be able to travel through it. So just a nice tight seal around the bottom where it connects with the bottle, and around the top where your straw is poking out. So this is our full thermoscope, and what we need to do now is to add the liquid that we set aside earlier so that it comes halfway up our straw. So using your pipette or your eyedropper, we're just going to very carefully add this liquid in through the top of our straw until it comes halfway up. Keep going. So about there. So now that we have our finished thermoscope, we can actually take our Sharpie and mark where the water level is when we complete it. This is our starting room temperature. Now we can place it somewhere in the house, and we could check the water level every hour to see how our temperature is changing. Remember, if the water level increases due to that thermal expansion, the level in the tube is also going to increase. And if the water level decreases, it's lost that energy in that expansion, and that means the temperature is decreased. So we can track the trends in our house on an hourly basis using a thermoscope. Please share your completed thermoscope and the data you've collected using it with us at education@labattleship.com. We'll see you next week with another weather tool. Until then, have a good one.